And don't you dare pretend you don't know what you're doing, my mom screamed into the phone so loudly that I had to move it away from my ear. We are family. You can't just abandon us because your feelings are hurt. I was sitting in my home office, watching the April rain drumming against the windows of my Burlington townhouse, and feeling a strange mix of numbness and rage. Everything I thought about my family had crumbled in an instant because of one simple mistake. Kevin had accidentally sent a message to our family chat instead of the secret chat he had with our parents. My name is Jordan Ride. I'm 35 years old, and until yesterday, I considered myself a good daughter helping my parents with their retirement expenses. I built a successful consulting business in marketing from scratch, and when it started bringing in stable income 5 years ago, I began sending money to my parents every month. They were all experiencing financial difficulties, and they could live peacefully without worrying about the most necessary expenses. But I never imagined who they really were. They considered me a family ATM. Just sent another 30, my brother wrote. This was followed by a reply from my dad, let this money flow not stop. She's too stupid to realize we're using her. Then a message from mom, yeah, that's what your dad wanted. Jordan would go crazy if she found out her money was going to this instead of medicine. Screenshots of years of discussions about how to deceive me, how to play on my sympathy. How to squeeze more money out of me kept coming. I couldn't breathe as I scrolled through one message after another. Kevin tried to quickly delete them, but it was too late. I had seen everything. 3 years they laughed at my generosity, pretending they couldn't afford medicine, buying new cars, claiming they couldn't pay the heating bills. All the previous day, my phone had been blowing up with calls and messages. Dad insisted they were just jokes. Mom said I was taking words out of context. Kevin claimed he was just playing along to maintain good relations, but their own words revealed the ugly truth to me. The rain outside intensified as if reflecting the storm raging within me. For years, I had financed their comfortable retirement, thinking I was helping them survive, and they were living in luxury, laughing at how easily their stupid, successful daughter fell for their manipulations. The betrayal was far more painful than I could have imagined. A sharp knock at the door startled me out of my thoughts. I approached, clutching the phone in my hand, and looked through the peephole. Kevin was standing on the porch, soaked to the bone. His eyes were pleading. I clenched my jaw. I wasn't ready for this conversation. But maybe it was time to hear him out. After all, I had something to say too. I opened the door but didn't step aside. What do you want, Kevin? He looked miserable, water dripping from his hair. Jordan, please. Let me in. I'll explain everything. Explain what? How you all laughed at me all these years. I raised the phone. The screen still showed one of his messages. Just told Jordan that Dad has serious tooth problems. Let's see how much we can squeeze out of her this time. It's not what it looks like, Kevin pleaded, his voice breaking. Mom and Dad started it, and I just went along with them. So you were just following orders, some kind of financial nazib? The words came out harsher than I intended, but I couldn't stop myself. I was sending you 30 every month, Kevin. That's 36 a year for 5 years straight. Do you even realize how much that adds up to? Kevin looked down. I know it's a lot. 180. And that's not even counting the extra expenses for Dad's treatment or Mom's broken boiler last winter. I felt physically ill remembering how I had cancelled a vacation to send them an additional 50 for repairs that, as it turned out, were never made. Listen, Kevin muttered, they went too far. I understand that, but they're old. They're 65, not 95. They're still playing golf every week with their new, expensive clubs that I paid for, thinking Dad needed medicine, I shouted, no longer caring if the neighbors heard. Please, Jordan, they're in a panic. Dad is worried about his heart medication. I laughed bitterly. Medication that doesn't exist. Or the real ones I've been paying for all this time while they spent the money on a luxurious lifestyle. Kevin's face contorted. I screwed up. I know, but now they're really in trouble, Jordan. They've gotten used to this level of living. They can't pay for their mortgage without you, the mortgage on the lake house they bought last year, telling me they were barely making ends meet while renting a modest apartment. I felt a strange calm. I think you should leave, Kevin. Jordan, please. No. Kevin, I've been Jordan for too long. Now I'm just Jordan, I finished as he left. I sank onto the couch, shaking. In my head over and over was one of Dad's messages. Just told Jordan that our roof is leaking. Let's see how much we can squeeze out of her this time. Mom replied, she's so naive when it comes to helping family. Almost feel sorry for her. And Kevin added, maybe we should start taking bets on how quickly she'll send money again. I was not a person to them but an atom, a source of money, a joke. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank. Every month for the past 5 years, 30 to my parents' joint account plus emergency cases, another 40 over all that time. Dental treatments that never happened, car repairs that weren't needed, medical bills for procedures that were never done. And what did I get? I postponed buying my own home for 2 years because I was helping them with their mortgage. I worked 60 hours a week to support their lives and mine, canceled vacations, bought used furniture, and saved on everything for their comfort so they could laugh at me, buy golf clubs, and go on cruises while I worried if they had enough to eat. I opened another tab and logged into the investment account I had opened 3 years ago. It was my secret plan to save extra money for them. Every month, I put 1 0 into it. The balance was a little over 42 0. My finger hovered over the close account button. Not yet. I needed to make this decision with a clear head. I dialed my best friend Megan, who was also my lawyer. They did what? She almost screamed when I told her everything. I know, I replied, exhausted. I was an idiot. No, Jordan, her voice softened. You were kind. They should be ashamed. She paused and then asked, what do you want to do? I don't know, I confessed. Part of me just wants to cut all ties, but another part wants to hear their explanation. Before you do anything, you need to sort out the legal side of some of your account's insurance. I felt a chill. I hadn't even thought about how financially intertwined we were beyond the monthly transfers and the investment account. 2 years ago, I added them to my premium health insurance as dependents. The heart medications, whose existence I now doubted, were covered by my insurance. They were also listed as beneficiaries in my life insurance policy. I need to cut all these ties immediately, I realized aloud. One step at a time, Megan calmed me. First, gather all the documentation, bank statements, messages, any requests for money. Second, make a list of all financial ties that need to be severed. And third, decide if you want to explain to them why you're doing this. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. As soon as we hung up, my phone vibrated with a new message from Mom. Your dad is very worried. His blood pressure spiked because of your behavior. We need to talk immediately. Something inside me tightened, but not from guilt, from the realization that they were still trying to manipulate me. They still thought that mentioning health problems would make me come running. I opened my laptop again and started taking screenshots of all the transfers over the years. Then I created a document titled Family Financial Support 5 Years and began listing everything, every emergency situation, every sacrifice I made. When I finished, the document was 12 pages long. The truth was undeniable. I was not just hurt, I was ready to end this. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew what I had to do. Before doubts could creep in, I called the office. I'm taking the day off. I need to sort this out. Jordan, Ride listening, I answered. 20 minutes later, the phone rang. Miss Wright, this is Samuel from Vermont Community Bank. I'm calling regarding the closure of your investment account. Yes, thank you for getting back to me so quickly. I need to close the additional retirement account I opened for Robert and Patricia Ride. Understood. May I ask if there were any issues with the account? No issues with the account. The problem is with those it was intended for. After confirming my identity and authority, Samuel explained the process of closing the account. Since I was the sole owner and it was intended as a gift, I could close it without notifying my parents. The remaining $42,680 would be transferred back to my main account within a few business days. Is there anything else I can assist you with, Miss Wright? Yes, I said. I need to cancel all regular transfers to Robert and Patricia Wright's joint account. They amount to $30 per month. Yes, that's correct. I will stop them immediately. Step 1 complete. Then I called my insurance company. This turned out to be more complicated. Plan changes to the list of insured persons required a qualifying event, and the fact that my parents were deceiving me was not on the list. But after speaking with a sympathetic employee named Miguel and explaining the situation, I found a solution. Since they live separately and you no longer cover more than 50 of their expenses, we can process this as a change in dependent status, he explained. They will receive a notification that they are excluded from your insurance starting at the end of the month. They will have 30 days to find alternative coverage. Thank you for your understanding, Miguel said gently. Family matters are complex. I know, I replied. I've been through this myself. Step 2 complete. The life insurance turned out to be the easiest change. I simply filled out a form online, removing my parents from the list of beneficiaries and replacing them with a local children's fund. By noon, I had almost completely severed all financial ties with my family. Only one issue remained: Kevin's student loan. I had been paying it off for the past 3 years, $580 per month, and he still had 2 more years of payments. I hesitated. Kevin was part of this lie. But he seemed genuinely remorseful. He did it under pressure from our parents, or maybe he just regretted getting caught. The phone vibrated again. Kevin, Mom and Dad are in a panic. Dad says he was denied his prescription at the pharmacy. What did you do? This question gave me the final answer. No apologies, no understanding, just more pressure to start transferring money again. I replied, the consequences are no longer my problem. The phone rang immediately. Kevin. I sent the call to voicemail, then opened my laptop and started writing a letter. I attached the 12-page document. Effective May 31st, your medical insurance will be cancelled and the retirement account will be closed. Your duplicity is documented. I have screenshots of your messages proving how systematically you manipulated me. Unless you intend to return the money you obtained fraudulently, Jordan Wright. I read the letter twice, attached the document and hit send. Step 3 complete. Then I blocked their numbers, deleted them from social media, and leaned back in my chair. I was exhausted, but for the first time in many years my money belonged only to me. The calm lasted 3 days. They found a way around my blocks. At 8:30 p.m. the doorbell rang. I was reviewing client reports but froze when I looked through the peephole. My parents and Kevin were on the porch, their faces a mix of anger and panic. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called Megan. There at my door, I whispered as if they could hear me. Don't open it, she said sternly. If they don't leave, call the police for trespassing. It's not too harsh. Believe me, Jordan. If they get in, it will be much harder to get them out, both physically and emotionally. The doorbell rang again, followed by loud banging. Jordan! My dad shouted. We know you're there. You can't just cut us off without an explanation. I sent Kevin a message, I don't want to talk. Leave or I'll call the police. Through the peephole, I saw Kevin look at his screen, then show the message to our parents. A heated argument ensued. Mom looked tearful. You'll regret this, Jordan. Dad shouted. We're family. You can't abandon us. The irony was that he used the word abandon. They had abandoned any show of love for me many years ago, seeing me only as a resource to be exploited. The next morning the email attack began. Mom sent a long guilt-laden message about how Dad's health was deteriorating without his medication. Dad sent a short, harsh message demanding that I stop this childish circus. Kevin pleaded, claiming our parents couldn't pay for their mortgage without my help. I silently forwarded everything to Megan and didn't respond to any of the messages. 3 days later, a registered letter arrived. Inside was a handwritten note from Mom. "Jordan, we don't understand why you're punishing us like this." Yes, we joked inappropriately, but all families do that. Dad's medication costs $450 a month without insurance. The mortgage payment is due next week, and without your help we can't cover it. We might lose our home. Please stop this cruelty and talk to us. I almost laughed. Elderly parents at 65 in perfect health. Judging by the photos from the golf club that Kevin accidentally sent to the chat, Dad had never looked happier. I picked up the phone and called the pharmacy where he usually got his medication. "Hello, I'm calling about my husband Robert Ride's medication. How much does it cost without insurance?" "Let me check," the pharmacist replied. A moment later, $42 for a month's supply. Ms. Ride. Not $450, $42. Another lie. That evening, Kevin was waiting for me outside the office. He looked terrible, dark circles under his eyes, rumpled clothes. "Jordan, please," he blocked my path. "They're falling apart. Dad is talking about bankruptcy." "That's not my problem," I replied, trying to get past him. "How can you be so cold? They're our parents." I looked him in the eye. Real parents don't use their children. Real parents don't laugh behind their backs about how gullible and naive they are. "They made a mistake," I interrupted. "Forgetting a birthday is a mistake. They deliberately deceived me for years, taking advantage of my kindness. The house will be repossessed for debt. They can't pay the mortgage without you." For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt, but then I remembered one particularly delightful screenshot. "Just convince Jordan that we're in trouble with the rent. Meanwhile, we're signing the deal on the lake house." "Yeah, you shouldn't have bought what you couldn't afford," I said dryly. "And the meds for Dad? The ones that cost $42, not $450. Kevin froze. "How did you?" I checked. "Stop lying, Kevin." I walked past him to my car. "Tell them to apply for government assistance. That's what those programs are for." "Jordan," he called after me. "They say they'll move in with me. I can't handle that." I turned around. "That's your problem, Kevin. Welcome to the world of consequences." 2 weeks later, I finally started therapy. Bennett, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a tough but fair demeanor, listened intently as I recounted this sordid tale. "Every day, I swing between feeling empowered and feeling guilty," I confesses. "For example, yesterday I heard from mutual acquaintances that they had to give up their golf club membership, and I felt sorry for them for a few hours." "That's normal, Bennett said. "You're grieving a loss. But they didn't deserve your support. They were just using you." "Two things can be true at the same time," she gently replied. "They didn't deserve your help, and you can still feel compassion. You're rediscovering yourself without that role." I never thought about it that way, but she was right. For 5 years, I measured my worth by how much I could help my parents. Who was I without that? When I left her office, the phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Jordan, it's your Uncle Pete." I was surprised we weren't close. He lived in Oregon, on the other side of the country. "I got a strange call from your dad. He asked if he and your mom could stay with me for a while. He said you cut them off and they're about to lose their home. Is that true?" I sighed heavily. "It's complicated, Uncle Pete." "I thought so," he said. "Your dad has always had a way of, shall we say, selectively presenting information." There was dry irony in his voice. "Want to tell me what really happened?" I told him everything about the screenshots, the lies about medical expenses, the manipulations I endured for years. When I finished, there was a long pause. "I'm not surprised," he finally said. Your dad tried to pull something similar with me many years ago. That's why we're not particularly close. I refused to finance his lifestyle. You knew. I felt a wave of betrayal wash over me again. Why didn't you warn me? Would you have believed me? He asked calmly. They convinced you they were in trouble and you were their savior. Sometimes people have to come to the truth on their own. He was right. I wouldn't have believed him. If it means anything to you, he continued, I told your dad I wouldn't take them in. I advised him to sell the house and start living within his means. And what did he say? After that conversation, I suddenly felt a sense of relief. I wasn't being cruel, I wasn't a terrible daughter. I was just their latest victim, but now I no longer allowed myself to be used. Later that evening, Kevin sent me another message. Mom and Dad are moving into my guest room next week. They're selling the house. Dad is furious. I can't believe it's come to this. I didn't respond. 3 days later, another message from Kevin. The house is on the market. Dad's car was repossessed today. Everything is terrible. I almost replied, almost asked if they needed help with the move, but then I remembered one particularly nasty screenshot. Jordan just asked how Dad is feeling after his doctor's appointment for his non-existent heart problem. They made their choices, now they had to live with the consequences. In the third week, a letter arrived from an unfamiliar address. The subject line read, Message from your parents. Obviously, they had asked a mutual acquaintance to contact me since I had blocked them everywhere. The letter said they had to sell almost all their furniture. Dad was under enormous stress, and his health was deteriorating. They had to apply for food stamps, which, for my proud father, was a huge blow. The letter ended with a plea. They just wanted to talk, explain, apologize. I thought about it for exactly 5 seconds, then hit delete. Their idea of an apology was to reopen the flow of money. I no longer allowed myself to be manipulated, no longer served as their own. For the first time in many years, my money was going toward my future, not their fabricated crisis. Guilt and remorse were replaced by a sense of freedom. 6 months later, I returned home from a business trip and froze. My parents were sitting on the steps of my porch. Dad had noticeably lost weight, Mom's usually well-maintained hair color was grown out, revealing gray roots. Their clothes were unfamiliar, cheap, not like their usual style. I felt a strange emptiness inside, not anger, not guilt, just emptiness. My first thought was to turn around and leave, but I had discussed this moment with Dira Bennett. I was stronger. I could face them without fear, without manipulation. I parked the car and slowly walked to the porch, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. What are you doing here? Mom's voice trembled. Jordan, please. We just want to talk. We've learned our lesson, Dad added. These months have been hell for us. I unlocked the door. You have 5 minutes. They awkwardly settled on the couch, while I remained standing, arms crossed. Forgive us, Mom began. We shouldn't have taken advantage of your kindness. Dad nodded. We've lost everything, the house, the car, our savings. We had to move in with Kevin. And there's so little space. Mom has to sleep on a fold-out bed. And we were kicked out of the golf club, Mom added. All our friends, they don't even call anymore. My meds, Dad continued. Without your insurance, it's a disaster. Medicare doesn't cover everything. I listened as they listed everything they had lost. I waited for real apologies, but they never came, only a catalog of their misfortunes and the subtext that I was to blame for all of it. Is that all? I asked when they finally fell silent. We want to make things right, Mom said. We've suffered so much, Jordan. We've learned our lesson. What lesson? They exchanged glances. That we shouldn't have taken you for granted, Dad finally muttered. You mean you should have been more careful not to get caught, I corrected. No, you still don't get it. What do you mean? Mom's voice turned sharp. You came here to tell me how hard it's been without my money, but you haven't even acknowledged how deeply you betrayed me. But we said we're sorry, Dad protested. Sorry you got caught maybe, but are you sorry for what you did? I took a deep breath. Over the past 6 months, I had thought a lot about what a healthy family should look like. This isn't it. A real family doesn't turn their child into an atom and laugh behind their back. Mom's face tightened. So you're just going to punish us for a few unfortunate jokes? This isn't punishment. It's protection from people who have shown they don't have my best interests at heart. But we're your parents, Dad said, as if that should settle everything. And I was your daughter, not your personal cash machine. I walked to the door and opened it. I wish you both the best. I genuinely hope you find a way to live within your means, but I can no longer be a part of your life. Mom's voice trembled. You can't be serious. We need you. That's the problem. You need what I can give you, and that's not the same thing. Dad stood up abruptly, his face flushed with anger. So that's it? After everything we've done for you? I smiled. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? Besides taking. There was no answer. They left, but as they walked away, Mom turned back. You'll regret this, Jordan. In the end, family is all you have. I shook my head. No, Mom. Family is those who love you unconditionally. I've built that kind of family among my friends. What we had was just a transaction. I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to their retreating footsteps. I waited to feel guilt, to feel loss, but instead, I was enveloped by an incredible sense of peace. The atom was closed for good, and for the first time in my adult life, I was truly free.